I I know actually that's something you talk about a lot, that you kind of see AI as kind of an enabler of human creativity and productivity, and um, that is about putting the human in the loop. So I mean, is that something that you kind of see that at its most effective, the AI is the enabler versus the AI actually kind of replacing the human? What do you think is the kind of the balance there?
Yeah, so I think it's really, really critical for us to acknowledge the fact that AI often lacks some sort of contextual knowledge, but maybe more importantly, it doesn't have like skin in the game. So if it messes
Mm-hmm.
up, it doesn't understand the implications of that. It doesn't know how bad its decision is going to be. It doesn't understand all those complexities. So it's crucial that AI is not the final decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
So the human has to still be part of that. But not only that, it's also hugely beneficial to whatever analysis that you're doing if the human is still part of it and just sort of deciding how to frame the analysis in the first place. So I think, yeah, like we should see AI as a tool that can automate the tedious parts of a job and sort of maybe act as an assistant or like a sounding board, if you want to engage with it in some sort of conversation that can help inspire you or give you ideas. But the really tough decisions definitely still require a human. And there's sort of a nice phrase that I've seen going around on social media, which is that your job probably won't be replaced with AI, but it might be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI better than you. So I think that
Yeah.
really exemplifies the fact that it can be a really, really powerful tool and assistant. But yeah, I don't see it being sort of fully replacing anyone at this point.
Mm. Yeah, I saw that one too. Actually, really struck a chord. So, and I guess kind of partly related to what we've just been talking about, which kind of goes into a little bit of kind of the area of ethics and how far we want AI to guide us in decisions, is the issue of bias, which gets talked about a lot, and quite rightly so, because it's a really important issue. And I guess, that potentially comes in earlier in the process. So, is there a danger that, if we're looking at text analysis or summarization, that actually the AI is just kind of, if you like, kind of coalescing to the mean? It's not taking account of the full diversity of opinions within the data set. And well, firstly, is that a danger? And secondly, if it is, how can that be overcome?
Yeah, so like you said, ethics is certainly or bias is certainly a huge conversation and very complex. And I think for me, like one important thing is it needs to be applied on a case-by-case basis. So I do think it's difficult to say anything sort of general about it.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I'll try and do that. So for example, like we were talking before about summarizing a single transcript from one person. And for me, that's probably one of kind of the relatively safer things to do in terms of bias.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you need to make sure that it's not completely butchering something that the person said. But you're not going to get like a huge selection bias. It's still going to be referencing in some way something that was said in the interview. And unless it's a really bad model, it's not going to be totally misrepresenting them. Where I think there's a lot more concern for me is where you start to have aggregate analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're analyzing hundreds or thousands or even 10 different interviews or whatever type of data, then we still have a very poor understanding of how large language models are sort of choosing between the different sources of information there. And so like even your question about, is it just coalescing to the mean? Yeah, it's very likely that it's doing that, but we don't even have like a strong enough understanding, I think, to even really be able to talk about that in a principled way. So maybe it's picking up on certain things, like depending on the particular model and the particular parameters. It might even be picking up on things which aren't said super frequently within a certain piece of text.
Mm-hmm.
But if you sort of switch the parameters a little bit, then it's going to be repeating just the things that were most frequently said. And so it's really hard to do these kinds of analyses on these models because just with a little shift in the parameters, it could sort of behave in a totally different way.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think there is a lot of danger in trying to use these models to summarize a big corpus or many different perspectives. A lot of the maybe really important points are going to get lost in the noise.
So actually maybe that points not just to the sort of desirability of human in the loop, but necessity of human in the loop, almost to kind of be able to kind of check what the AI has come up with in terms of summarization versus the original kind of text base, to make sure that firstly the diversity of opinion is there, and second, and that nothing's been lost, because it's not, I guess it's not just about including all opinions, but actually for market research sometimes the best insight comes from the edges. So yeah, I guess that points to human in the loop as quite an important thing.
Yeah, I think so. And for me, I feel like, at least at this stage, one of the safer ways to go about it while still getting those superpowers from AI is to kind of use AI to analyze each individual piece of text. And then maybe that means summarization, maybe that means pulling out a particular insight from each one. But then definitely still have that human in the loop to say, okay, out of all of these different pieces of information, which ones do I want to pull in? How do I want to compare them to each other?